Hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to go deep into one topic as part of our first week of our 10-week series, and it is going to be the chronic inflammation. We're going to understand, what is it, how does it occur, and give you some tactics and practical tips on how to potentially, overcome it. So, just imagine that scenario. You wake up feeling very stiff, maybe your joints ache a little bit more in the morning, you feel tired even though you slept, you get a headache more often than you used to, your skin maybe breaks out, and your energy crashes after lunch. So you go to the doctor, they run some tests, everything goes back normal, and yet something just doesn't feel right. Now, what if I told you that all those things, so the stiffness, the fatigue, the brain fog, the skin issues, the crashes, could be connected to a single underlying process happening silently inside your body right now? That process is called chronic inflammation. And today we're going to understand exactly what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, what can you actually do about it starting this week. So let's start with what is inflammation. So first, let me get one thing straight. Inflammation is not the enemy. In fact, inflammation is one of the most brilliant and essential tools your immune system has. Now, imagine that you cut your finger whilst cooking. Within seconds, your body launches a rescue operation. Blood flow increases to the area. White blood cells rush to fight any bacteria. The tissue swells slightly as your immune system gets to work. There is redness, some heat, some pain. This is acute inflammation, and it is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. It is healing you. Now, a few days later, the wound is closed. The inflammation switches off. Mission accomplished. Right, so this is inflammation your body was designed for. Short, targeted, then done. Let's have a look at the problem now, when inflammation never switches off. So now that's where things go wrong for a lot of us in the modern world. Imagine that the same rescue response, but instead of switching off after a few days, it just stays on. At a low level, quietly, but day after day, month after month, year after year. So what happens is that your immune system is permanently on mild alert, even though there is no wound to heal, no infection to fight. This is what we call chronic low-grade inflammation, and your body was absolutely not designed for it. Over time, this persistent background activation begins to damage things it was never supposed to touch. It interferes with the way that your cells communicate. It disrupts hormonal signals, including insulin, which we have talked before, and we will come back to. It places a constant low-level burden on organs like your liver, your heart, and your brain. Researchers now understand that chronic inflammation is a key driver underlying most of the major diseases of our time. Type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and certain cancers, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune conditions, and much more. Have a look at the reference I put as well in the description if you want to go deeper into that. Now, what causes chronic inflammation? So, what is triggering this alarm that never switches off? The honest answer is a lot of things about modern life. Poor sleep is one of the most potent drivers. Even a few nights of disrupted sleep measurably increases inflammatory markers in the blood. Chronic stress is another. When your body produces cortisol constantly, the immune system responds as though there is a persistent threat. Lack of movement matters too. The body is designed to move, and physical inactivity is now consistently linked with higher baseline inflammation. And then there is food. What we eat has an enormous, some researchers would say dominant, influence on whether our body tends towards inflammation or away from it. And that is what we are going to focus on today, because it is one of the most practical levers that you have. So let's have a look at the food connection. So what drives inflammation? Let's talk about pro-inflammatory foods. So what you should look to reduce. We'll start to look at the foods that research consistently linked to promoting chronic inflammation. I want to be clear, this is not about being perfect or cutting everything out overnight, right? It's about understanding what is happening so that you can make informed choices. The first category is ultra-processed food. So these are the products that have been heavily manufactured and are packed with artificial additives, emulsifiers, refined carbs, and seed oils. Think packaged snacks, fast food, ready meals, and soft drinks. Studies constantly show that high consumption of ultra-processed foods is associated with elevated inflammatory markers. Again, I put some reference as well in the detail so you can see if you want to go deeper. Second category is the refined carbs and added sugars. Think white bread, pastries, sugary cereals, fruit juices, and sweets. When these enter your bloodstream rapidly, they cause sharp spikes in your blood glucose, which in turn triggers an insulin response. And repeated large insulin responses are directly linked to increased inflammatory signaling. This is a connection between what you eat, insulin, and inflammation. Third category is industrial seed oils. Oils like soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, and canola oil are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. In small amounts, omega-6 is fine, but in the quantities found in modern processed foods, the imbalance between omega-6, the bad one, and omega-3, the good one, in the diet promotes an inflammatory state at the cellular level. And then the last category is alcohol. So moderate to high alcohol consumption is consistently associated with increased gut permeability, sometimes called leaky gut, which allows bacterial compounds to enter the bloodstream and trigger an immune response, feeding the cycle of inflammation. So now let's talk about anti-inflammatory foods. So what do you need to think about adding into your diet? And there's some good news because there's a lot of it. Because the same research that identifies pro-inflammatory dietary patterns very clearly identifies what moves us in the right direction. First category, oily fish. So things salmon, sardines, mackerel. Those are the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods available. They are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. They are, with EPA and DHA, which your body uses to produce compounds that actively resolve inflammation. Aim for like 2 to 3 portions per week. Then the second category is leafy green vegetables. So think spinach, kale, rocket, Swiss chard. These are loaded with polyphenols and antioxidants that help neutralize the oxidative stress that drives inflammation. They're also rich in magnesium, a mineral that plays a direct role in modulating the immune response. Another category is berries. Think blueberries, strawberries, raspberries. Berries contain a family of compounds called flavonoids. Particularly, that have been shown in multiple studies to reduce markers of inflammation. And then another category is extra virgin oil. This is a cornerstone fat of the Mediterranean diet, which is the most studied dietary pattern for its anti-inflammatory effects. Extra virgin oil contains a compound which has a mechanism of action similar to ibuprofen. It inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes. 1 to 3 tablespoons per day is a well-supported target. Then the other category is more spices, turmeric and ginger. So two of those kitchen spices with genuine anti-inflammatory evidence behind them. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, has been shown to suppress multiple anti-inflammatory pathways. Ginger similarly contains elements with anti-inflammatory properties. Those are not magic cures by any stretch of the imagination, but as part of a consistent dietary pattern, they contribute meaningfully. Then nuts and seeds. Walnuts in particular are high in plant-based omega-3. Almonds, flaxseed, and chia seeds similarly contribute anti-inflammatory fatty acids and fiber, which feeds the gut microbiome. And a healthy gut microbiome is directly linked to lower systemic inflammation. And then the last category is green tea. It's very, very rich and has been studied extensively for its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. 2 to 3 cups per day appears to be really beneficial. Right, so now I want to get really practical, what you should do this week. We'll bring all that together into something that you can actually use, right? Again, you don't need to overhaul your entire life this week. What the science tells us is that consistent, sustained dietary patterns matter far more than occasional perfection. So here's what to start. I'm going to give you 3 very clear steps. First step, add 1 anti-inflammatory food to each day this week. A handful of berries with breakfast, drizzle of extra veg oil on your lunch, a portion of oily fish for dinner like twice this week. Small additions compound over time. Second step, identify 1 pro-inflammatory habit that you can reduce, not eliminate, just reduce. Perhaps it's the sugary coffee drink, the afternoon crisps, or the cooking oil that you use. Just pick one. And third step, remember that food is one lever among several. Because if your sleep is poor or your stress is high, those are also driving inflammation. And we'll be covering those in upcoming videos as well. So, to conclude, inflammation is not a life sentence. It's a process. And like any process, it responds to inputs. The food you eat is one of the most direct and accessible inputs that you have. And now you understand why. If you want to go deeper into the science behind any of what we covered today, I have linked the key research papers in the description below. Everything I share on this channel is grounded in peer-reviewed science, not opinions, not trends, not sponsorship, just the evidence. If that was useful to you, share it with someone who needs it. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for subscribing.